If you were handed a box of everything you have ever lost, what would you look for first? Hello everyone, write your stories in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. Story 1. My dad's guitar that he gifted me as a child was stolen from a storage unit a few years after he died in 2018. I seriously lose sleep over it to this day. I didn't want it to be put in that stupid unsecured storage unit, but it was out of my control. I was a teenager. Long story, but I regularly get reminded of it and have to force myself to not think about it, or I get really upset and start to spiral. Story 2. My Nana made me a quilt when I turned 18. Took her ages. We went to the fabric store to pick out patterns and colors, and it was beautiful. Went to a laundromat to wash it and all my baby's clothes. Lived right around the corner. My son pooped, so I thought I'd run him home and be back in 10 minutes. When I got back, 10 minutes later, my quilt was gone. Nowhere. I contacted the number for the place multiple times, but nobody ever found it. I still cry about it and never told her. That's what ID look for first. Story 3. I had a hard drive that had a bunch of memories and videos on it from age 16, 22-ish. My dad's computer guy at the time told me to store everything on there because it would always be safe. Well, it stopped working one day, so I sent it to him to get fixed. Instead of fixing it, he replaced it and destroyed the original one. I've never forgiven him for this. I would have rather held on to the broken hard drive because now with technology advancements, I'm sure someone could have extracted all those files. I still prank call him periodically and list his number on Craigslist for expensive free items so people blow up his phone with unnecessary calls. I hate him so much. Fuck you, Doug, you fucking nerd. Story 4. The little spirit horse figurine that I lost on a road trip with my family ages ago. I loved that horse figure so much and never wanted to lose it. We stopped at a rest stop, and I put it down to wash my hands and completely forgot it on the sink there. By the time I realized we had already pulled out of the rest stop, and I knew my dad would refuse to go back for a toy, so I just sat there and cried for the next hour or so. Every once in a while, I wonder what happened to that toy. Story 5. A skeleton key that my kindergarten friend gave me to remember her by on the last day of school that year. I never saw her again. And 6-year-old me didn't do a great job of keeping track of important things back then. Lee. Story 6. A family heirloom I lost when I was homeless in 2017. My uncle gave me a Bible that was owned by my original grandmother before she killed herself in the 70s. I never met the woman and my mom barely remembers her too. It had her name and handwriting in it. I feel like garbage that I lost it during that time. Story 7. My original Game Boy with the yellow case. My brothers kept taking the gray one saying it was actually theirs. So for Christmas, I got my own with a bright yellow case. I loved it so much as it was officially provably mine, unlike pretty much everything else we owned. It disappeared at some point, probably stolen and hidden. Dumb, but I'd like it back. Story 8. Wife's wedding ring. She passed a few weeks ago on March 18th at the ripe old age, if 44, $. You canver. I drew up the design for the ring, and a diamond seller in San Francisco made it for us. Not the flashiest of diamonds, but I paid for it myself. Lost or perhaps stolen around 6 years ago when a girl we knew and her pothead boyfriend watched the house for us. No good deed? If lost, that's what I'd be looking for. Story 9. There is a picture of me with all my friends when I was in 9th. They were all in that goth stage and in all black with spiky hair and crazy makeup, and then there was me. Most never grew out of it. Dead in the middle, in a light orange tank top and white ruffle skirt with a pink ribbon around my hips and bright blonde hair. I talk about this photo often, and I wish I had a copy still. Story 10. My grandmother had a very old, bent caldera that she cooked all of our meals in from the time I was old enough to not see over the table. She made our rice, our sopas, and all of the delicious scents and flavors that colored the best parts of my childhood. Her house was neat and clean. She loved not so much with her words. We spoke 2 different languages, but with her food. Her food was good. When she passed away, the ladies at the church came and helped. They disposed of quite a lot. They were honestly trying to help, but the pot was thrown out. I want it. I still want it. I don't want a new one. I want that pot. I would keep it on my mantle, filled with fresh picked flowers and her favorite candy. Story 11. A really good friend bought me a Zippo for my birthday. I went to uni and met this lass, went out drinking with her all the time, paid for tons of stuff for her, because I just really like her. 3+ yes later with her first paycheck she buys me a Zippo. We drifted apart, but I treasured it. Years later I got married and went on holiday. Somehow, said lighter didn't make it back. I suspect my wife left it there. I was super sad about it. I'd love it back. Story 12. My childhood photo album. It was in a storage place while we moved to a different house. I found out that Mom didn't pay the monthly payments, and the stuff was to be thrown away. I didn't know until Mom asked me if there was something in the storage I wanted to keep. Only then, it was too late. Haven't forgiven her since. My grandma made this for me, and it was the only thing left to remember her. Story 13. 3 journals I kept in childhood. The first one was a big blue notebook, plain pages, that I kept when I was around 6, 9. The second was a small leopard print notebook that I kept when I was 10, 13. The third was a bunch of loose leaf pages that I wrote in the form of letters and hid in a small jewelry box drawer, again when I was around 12, 13. Inexplicably, they all went missing at one point or another. I would go to write in them again, and because I wrote fairly sporadically, it could be weeks between entries. I'd go to where I left them, and they would be gone. I was meticulous about where I put things as a child, OCD since I was 7, and I know I did not misplace them myself. I looked everywhere, but they were totally gone. With hindsight, I can only assume one or both of my parents hid them or disposed of them. Considering my other journals never went astray, I assume that each of these 3 journals contained information they didn't want me remembering. Considering there is a lot of nasty stuff I suspect about my childhood, this would not be surprising, nor would it be out of character for my mother especially. I would absolutely love to see what I wrote in them. Story 14. Before I went backpacking for the first time, in 2003, my dad scratched my initials into a Canadian quarter as a reminder of home and family. That quarter was my good luck charm throughout that whole trip, and I kept it in my wallet for the next 15 years until I somehow lost my wallet at a bar in Vancouver. Dad passed away last year, and I'd love to get that quarter back. Hey, Canadians reading this, check your pockets for a quarter with some scratched-in initials. Story 15. Each child in my dad's family was gifted a gold locket when they were children with pictures of them when they were babies. My dad's was kept in his baby book until he died at 40 when I was 10. The locket was gifted to 10-year-old me, and I wore it every day. When I was 12, my grandfather died, and I lost the locket the day of his funeral in the churchyard. I would look for the locket first. Story 16. This little transforming truck I had as a kid. It has figurines that fit in all the seats, and pressing a button on top made it transform into what was probably some kind of artillery station, but I always played with it like it became a hovercraft. Don't remember the brand, and I had it when I was around 5. Almost 40 now and still remember how cool it was. Story 17. My sanity. Oh wait, we are being serious. I would look for the 100-year-old golden necklace I was given from my grandma when I turned 18. Too young for someone with ADHD. I was wearing it. It fell off my neck in the store. I found it, then forgot it in my pants pocket. Those pants went through the wash, and it was never to be found again. Story 18. The ruby necklace my mum gave me for my 21st birthday, after we had a rare mum-daughter day out together. I lost it during a Christmas party at a hotel. Wished so much ever since that I chose literally any other necklace to wear that night. My mum died of cancer in 2012. I don't have anything else like that necklace left that she gave me, because I always asked for practical stuff. She insisted I have something special for my 21st, though. Story 19. A particular piece of amethyst. A good friend gave it to me shortly before she died, and I wore it as a pendant around my neck. I fiddled with it all the time, you know, how you mess with a necklace charm. One time I reached for it, and it was gone. I don't know how I didn't notice when it fell. It weighed a ton. I was so sad. That was more than 20 years ago. And I'm still mourning the loss of the person and the rock that represented her. Story 20. My mom's ring. It's an emerald yellow gold ring that she got as a gift when the department store she worked at closed down. It was so pretty, and I always used to borrow it from her when I was a teen. She passed a few years ago, and I found that ring and put it on. Then one day I needed to do some work on my car, so I took it off, and I thought I put it in my pocket. But it wasn't there when I went to put it back on. It wasn't anywhere. I hope someday someone finds the ring and loves it. Story 21. When I was around 6, 7, I lost my Pokemon Gold cartridge. When I was 9, I found it and was so thrilled I played it completely again. Then I thought, wow, I was so happy when I lost it and found it again. I should lose it again. So I stuck it in between a couch and went on with life. At age 10, my parents divorced, and that couch went with my father. Around age 15, I remembered where I put it, but at that point, my father had sold it or threw out the couch. I still wonder if it's there. Story 22. If the box was a refrigerator-sized crate, then I would find my boyfriend, give him a hug, and ask to be back together. Also, all the stuff that probably went to the back rooms, my UK Power Networks hat, a scarf, wire snips, a dozen screws, my stash of IC Chips Gold recovery stuff, Game Boy Gallery 5 in one cartridge, some discs with important stuff on it, a SideQuest 88 MB cartridge, floppy disk with important drivers, easily gotten off archive.org, 2.5 laptop hard drive I was going to use in my retro PC, 2 SD cards, a D20 and several keys. The locks that the keys went to were very easily pickable. All of these things have disappeared inexplicably without a good reason and are impossible to find. My room needs a sacrifice item to get something else back, and it happens when I need the sacrifice item more than the item I get back. Edit. Got my 2.5 laptop hard drive back for a SideQuest 270 MB cartridge, 2 zip disks, and an audio cassette with Atari games. Story 23. I don't really remember much, but I would freak out in joy just seeing stuff I haven't really missed in a while because of my shitty memory but really want back in my life. There was that mouse plush toy that I lost at some random parking lot when my mother had a job interview far away. I only remember that I was still in a big child car seat, so I must have been like 4 or so. I wonder what my life would be like now if my mother had gotten that job and never met her horrible later and now late husband. I might have turned out okay. Story 24. A bunch of keychains that my friends and parents gave me. Seriously, I've lost my keys too because of my absent-mindedness. But it's the keychains that I lose the most. Too bad, I had a lot of different ones, with favorite characters, animals to souvenirs from other countries. I want my keychains back. Story 25. Black opal necklace I got during a trip to Australia that disappeared 26 years ago. I grabbed it while leaving my room, intending to put it on. I put it on our kitchen island and forgot about it when I left to go to school. I looked for it as soon as I got home from school and it was gone, never to be seen again. We had cats, so maybe a cat played with it and carried it away. Or maybe my mother picked it up and hid it, intending to teach me some lesson about taking better care of my things, though that really isn't her style. It's a mystery. Story 26. This might sound super weird, but roughly around 2015 to 16, when I was in primary 5, 5th grade, I believe, I had this huge red plastic lunchbox that I started bringing to school every day. What was cool about it was the holographic Minecraft stickers that I stuck on the top of the lunchbox. One particular day, I brought the lunchbox to school, ate the majority of my lunch. I left a box of grapes and half of a sandwich. And when I was finished, I left it on the concrete outside near the entrance to my classroom before continuing to play with my classmates on the pitch. When the school bell rung, we all went back inside to our classrooms, and I completely forgot to collect my lunchbox. When I randomly remembered during class, I excused myself quickly and went with a staff member to look for my lunchbox. I couldn't find it anywhere outside. I even went to a corner in our assembly hall called the Lost Property Corner, basically a lost and found bit for anyone that lost anything. And it wasn't there. It's been roughly 9 years, and I'm currently in big kids school, secondary, although I've only got 3 days of school now before I'm heading to college. But I still wonder where on earth that red lunchbox is. I felt really bad because I only got it a few days prior to the disappearance of it. Story 27. The $50 bill that flew out of my hand when I was riding in a convertible on the turnpike. I pulled the money out of my pocket so that I could pay the toll, and as I was flipping through for a single A50 flew out. My first thought was the phone number of a girl that I met while I was on a mini vacation. Riding home on my motorcycle, I took my jacket off and strapped it on the back of the bike. At some point it fell out. I was less concerned about losing the jacket than I was losing her phone number, which was in the pocket. But at this point, it's way too late. That was almost 20 years ago. Upon review, I would like to change my answer to all the first appearance and rare comic books that my stepson stole from me. I don't even know for sure all of the comics that he stole from my collection, but I do know that he stole every single first appearance that I owned. Story 28. This tiny little jewel I had. I got it from some Kmart or something forever and ever ago when I was a little kid. It used to be on a keychain, but it had broken. We happened to be going up to the counter when the employee was out to throw it away, and she gave it to me. I have lost and found that jewel so many times in my life. It's been run over by a car at least 3 times. I've moved a half dozen times and lost it more than that, and it's always come back. Sometimes I've lost it for years at a time, and then it'll just randomly just show up sitting there on the counter somehow magically. Like literally, I would be the only one there and it would just be sitting there somehow like it's freaking possessed or some shit. Even when I got kicked out of my house when I was 17, it somehow managed to get caught up in one of the few pieces of clothing my mother threw out the window. It always somehow magically found its way back to me. Except now I lost it several years ago, and it still hasn't made it back, and I'm beginning to wonder if maybe actually this time it's actually really gone for real. Story 29. The necklace I lost at a friend's house, New Year's 2007 or something. It was a little gold heart on a simple gold chain that my best friend from high school gave me at our graduation party. I had tequila for the first time that night, and must have ripped it off my neck or something while changing for bed. It got lost in the deep pile carpet at her place, and she never found it. Moved a few years later. I kind of feel guilty for losing that. It was my favorite piece of jewelry because it represented our 9 years of friendship. Edit for timelines. Best friend gave it to me in 2004 when we graduated. I lost it 2007-ish.